All right, away we go. Larry Krueger with you for Niners Nightly on this Friday night. Hope everybody's having a fantastic day. It is a warm one in the creek. This Friday, August the 8th, the off day before the 49ers hit the practice field for preseason, or the Levi Stadium field for preseason game number 1. And of course, we'll have it for you. 5:30 kickoff, 2:30 pregame on 8:10 a.m. and 107.7 The Bone. Adam Copeland, and I believe Todd Husak, Tracy Sandler. I will join the festivities for a segment in the pre and post game show. Tim Webb Productions as we lead you towards the broadcast, which will be Bob Fitzgerald and Keena Turner on the call. Looking forward to that one as well. Really fired up. Bob Fitz and Keena do a great job. And Dennis Brown. Dennis Brown will be on the broadcast as well, the three of them. And then, of course, that's on the radio side. On the TV side, normally it would be Greg Papa and Tim Ryan. Greg is taking some time off to deal with his health. So Guy Haberman will sit in on KPIX, and that's going to be Guy Haberman, Tim Ryan, and then our good friend Vern Glenn will be on the sidelines for the call on the TV side. So welcome to Niners Nightly on a Friday. Hope everybody's having a great day. As you can tell, I'm pretty sunburned. Spent a lot of time in the sun yesterday. Yes, I didn't have my full complement of lotion. But I want to talk a little bit tonight. We're going to visit with Chase Sr. and chop it up with him and get his thoughts in the second half of the hour. If you're watching tonight and you want to throw your questions or comments in the chat, please do. Obviously, if there's people that follow me on YouTube, you can hit like and subscribe here. You can check me out on the Krug Show, hit like and subscribe over there as well. But thanks to everybody for watching the Niners Nightly on this Friday. What I wanted to get to, and I mentioned this to Papa and to Copeland. What I want to get into tonight, to me, there's really only three things. It's like the preseason is not the regular season. You shouldn't watch it the same. You shouldn't watch it with the same intent. To me, there's really three things that can happen in training camp and in the preseason. One is the offense can develop a rhythm and a little bit of cohesion through just repetitions, mental reps in the meetings, physical reps on the practice field, conversations between the quarterback and his receivers, between linemen. Offensive football is about cohesion. It's about, symmetry. It takes time. That's why you see kind of more basic offense early in the year. And a lot of times you'll see more complicated offense late in the year. It's also why you see kind of basic offense for teams that have new coaching staffs. And sometimes you see very intricate offense for teams that have an existing quarterback or a lot of existing skill position players or continuity at the offensive coordinator position and head coach position. And a lot of times you'll see those teams do things at the beginning of the year that teams that have a new coaching staff really don't attempt to do. So number one in the preseason, it's good for the offense. It's good for the offense. Offensive players need that choreography. They need those reps. They need to be able to say, hey, you know what? I on this route, throw it to my outside shoulder. They need somebody in the meetings to be like, okay, this is the finer points. And little things like the finer points of offensive football help an offense get on the same page. So that's the number one thing that I think most football teams get out of training camp and out of the preseason. Offensive cohesion, offensive rhythm. I've seen teams start a preseason with very little offensive rhythm, and then by the end of the preseason, they have a significant offensive rhythm, and oftentimes they carry that right into the regular season. So offensive cohesion and developing a rhythm and practice reps, communication between linemen, communication between quarterbacks and receivers, the communication between the offensive coordinator telling you exactly what you want to get out of each play. I think Shanahan is, according to the players, is really good at kind of giving the players a little bit more of the mental overview. So they're not just doing a task, that they understand the entire what's trying to be accomplished in the entire play, and why some of the nuances and some of the, you're a cog in a wheel, but you got to know how, what the intent of the play is if you're really going to be a good football player. And so he's great at kind of not just telling you why you need to do, what you need to do, but why you need to do it. And that's where Kyle has gotten lauded by many of his players over the last few years. When I talk to him in the locker room, they talk about Shanahan's ability to, in film study, to kind of paint a bigger picture, to kind of show them the bigger picture. And a lot of times that helps guys, really take more ownership of the task because they see that it's part of the game plan. And then also allows them to kind of know the play to a greater level, because every aspect of it and what the ambition and what the goal is of the play. So that's number one, offensive cohesion and rhythm. Okay. That's the first thing that happens at training camp. The other two things that happen at training camp are, real basic in my mind. You lose guys to injury, and that impacts the game greatly, because you sometimes lose the wrong guys you can't afford to lose. Sometimes guys who have a unique skill set that the guy replacing him can't replicate. You lose a Christian McCaffrey, it's hard to replicate that. You lose a Deebo Samuel, it's not like they're just going to say, hey, somebody else be the wide back. No, not everybody has that same skill set. So that's number two. You lose guys to injury and you just become worse. You go to camp full throttle, and then you start losing guys. And all of a sudden, if you lose a lot of guys, you wind up your season's lost. Warren Sharp had the stat the other day on Twitter that was overwhelming. It was like it took a look at Shanahan's Niners and basically just showed all the different years and what what kind of injuries they've had during the year. Here it is right here. I'll share the screen and we can take a look at this. This is, you guys can see this for yourself. This is Warren Sharp. Warren Sharp put this out. He's a pretty sharp guy. No pun intended. Wrong button. There we go. Share screen. Here it is. I'll bring it up there on the screen. You can take a look at it. 49er health by seasons. Last year, the Niners were the number one most injured team in pro football. They won 6 games and missed the playoffs. The year before that, 2023, they were 29th in most injured teams out of 32, and they went 12-5, and they went to the Super Bowl. Lost it, but still went to the Super Bowl. 2022, they were the 9th most injured team, and they still went 13-4 and went to the NFC championship game and lost. 2021, they were number 3 as far as most injured. 2020, they were number 1 most injured. These were not good years. 19, they were the 6th most injured team, and they still went 13-3 and lost the Super Bowl. And 2018, they were the 4th most injured team. So, look at that. The 49ers have been in the top 10 as the most injured teams 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of the last 7 years. 6 out of the last 7 years. They've been they've been top 10 in the NFL in injuries. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 times they've been in the top 4 of most injured. And last year they were the most injured team. Why? The question is why? I don't know. I don't have the answer. You could change out your medical staff. I personally believe that injured players are more apt to get injured. So draft guys who played in college, draft guys who love to play. Guys, in the old personnel department guys I used to work with in the Canadian League used to say, guys who love to play find their way to the field. Guys who don't love to play find their way off of it. And truer words have never been spoken. If you want to play, guess what? You're going to be out there. If you don't want to play, guess what? You're going to find a way not to be out there. You would think everybody wants to play, but it's not the way it is. So that, to me, number 1, offensive cohesion. Number 2, you just lose guys. You lose guys to injuries. And number 3 is you discover gems, incredible gems in the preseason. So let's talk about 2 and 3 for a second. You lose guys to injury. The Niners have already had a bunch of injuries. If I was Shanahan, I mean, I asked Brock Purdy yesterday how much he wants to play in the preseason. Maybe we can play that cut here as well. I asked him, I said, how much do you want to play in the preseason? He gave me a pretty good answer. Here it is right here. Off the Kevin Krueger Twitter page. I'll share the screen. My son retweets these, and then I use them off his Twitter. I'll share the screen. Here it is right here. This is Purdy on playing in the preseason. I asked him about it yesterday. Here's what he said. How many series would you like to play in the preseason, or do you need to play to be ready for week one?
I haven't talked to Kyle or anything about that yet in regard to the first game. But I always love getting a couple series in and stuff within, with the 3 preseason games that we get. So not sure what that looks like, but I always love getting it just to get the feel for warming up for a game, how it feels, dropping back 11 on 11 in the stadium with the shot clock, like just working all the things and getting ready for game one. Something that I've always looked forward to actually every year.
So, they haven't talked about it yet. But he'd like to get a little bit of run. And that's basically what he said there. I want to play a little bit. All right. How much do you play Brock Purdy? You've had a lot of injuries already. How much do you want to risk it? How much do you want to risk? I would say I came up with a list of 6 guys, and I'm debating the 7th one, and I'll throw it to you guys if you think he should be on the list. These are the guys I don't want to play in the preseason. Okay, there's 6 what I call the golden gooses that I don't want to play in the preseason. Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, Trent Williams, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Demo Lenore. I don't want to play those 6 guys in the preseason. Now, I do understand the one guy that I would consider playing is Brock for the reasons that he just listed right there. What's a good number of series for Brock? I would say if he wants to play in the preseason, I would say don't play at all. Don't play at all. Let's do this in practice. But if he really wants to play, I give him 1 series tomorrow night against the Broncos. I give him 1 series in preseason number 3 against the Chargers. And I'll give him 2 or 3 series in the Raider game, depending on the success and the length and how it looks. There you go. 1 in week 1, 1 in week 3, 2 or 3 in week 2. So no more than 5 series. I'd aim for 4. 4 series in 3 games. That'll be fine. 5 at most. That's what I'll play Purdy. But I'm not playing CMC, and I'm not playing Trent, and I'm not playing Bosa, and I'm not playing Warner, and I'm not playing Demo. The guy that I was debating is, do you play Ricky? You've had a lot of injuries at wide receiver. You got JJ holding out. At best, he's going to be rusty if he comes back when he has his miracle recovery from his calf injury, if he gets paid more money. So how are they going to do this? I mean, would Pearsall be on the list? And he might be. He looks really good in practice to the point where I know he hasn't had a lot of days. And, you got to stack days, and he's got to be there for week 1. I mean, it's really 2 different philosophies. Whose philosophy do you think's better? Sean McVay believes get your cash, make sure that all of your money shows up in week 1 because you don't play him at all in the preseason. That's his plan. That's what he does. He never played Aaron Donald. He never played Cooper Kupp. He never played Stafford. He never played Puka. He doesn't play these guys in the preseason. They don't play in the preseason. The Rams do not play their guys in the preseason. They trade September rust for we're going to have all of our money on the field first week. They feel like they're going to lose guys to injury, so they're like, screw it. We're not going to lose guys to injury in football games that don't matter. We're not going to use our guys in the preseason. Then they don't. Shanahan is more old school. He believes that you need to build up those calluses, that those calluses are what get you through the football season, and it has to be developed at training camp. So, it's an interesting debate. Is McVay right or Shanahan right? I mean, some would say scoreboard. McVay's got a ring and Shanahan doesn't, but that's too simplistic. We know that's not this is not cannot be answered in just some pithy reply. What's better? What's the better plan? You know, sit your guys and be rusty week one, but be fully intact, or play your guys and be sharp week one, but you may be down a guy. You know, what's the better plan? So if I was Shanahan, I would sit Purdy, CMC, Williams, Bosa, Warner, and Lenore. If I got to play Purdy, if he really wants to play and it's like he really believes that's his key, then I'd play him one series. But the other guys, I'm not even negotiating with. I'm taking their pads. I'm taking their helmet. They're not getting out there. CMC, no way in hell. No way in hell. And Trent Williams, no way. You're not losing these guys before week one. You have to show up at Lumen Field week one in Seattle with Purdy, CMC, Trent, Bosa, Warner, and Lenore. Okay? Period. End of story. I don't care about rust. I don't care about that. I need my money to play. I need my money there week one. So that's my plan. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that in the chat. Then the third one is you discover gems. And this is the part of the preseason that I love. Just sit back and watch it like a fan and see who jumps off the page at you. And there'll be some gems. And I'm going to give you some names that I think potentially could be gems. Because there are a bunch. There's a bunch. Now, I'll give you the ones that I'm most excited about first. Upton Stout. The nickel corner looks amazing. John Lynch compared him to his ex-teammate, Rondé Barber, who was a Hall of Famer. Hall of Famer. This kid looks great. Everything you want physically except for height. Everything you want mentally. Everything you want heart-wise. Everything you want courage-wise. If you could replicate this guy, you would. Upton Stout. Looks awesome. Rondé Barber, part 2.0. CJ West. Just scary potential. Plug and play, defensive tackle, awesome. The answer to, man, we need a replacement for DJ Jones. Well, it didn't show up when DJ left, but he's here now, CJ West. Nick Martin. I'll say it right now, and I'll say it with my chest out. Nick Martin's a future Pro Bowl linebacker if I'm sitting here. I mean, he is a future Pro Bowler. He's big, strong, fast, tough, good player, really good player, smart as hell. Can't wait to watch him. Alfred Collins, best practice was yesterday against Denver. He is really improving. He's huge, strong, needs work. He's raw, doesn't have much pass rush ability right now, but he's getting better every practice. Sebastian Valdez, they call him the mini Hulk. This guy is amazing. This is probably the number one guy I want to watch on defense. This guy came out of nowhere. Credit the Niners. Next time I see John Lynch, which is probably tomorrow night, I'm going to ask him, John, tell me, who was it that pounded the table for Sebastian Valdez? Who was the road scout? Who was the guy who unearthed Sebastian Valdez? There had to be somebody when you're sitting there going, well, maybe we'll go for this guy. Maybe we'll go for that guy. Maybe we'll go for the other guy. How about this guy? How about that? There's got to be somebody who was like Sebastian Valdez or else. You know, it's like Sebastian Valdez or over my dead body. I mean, there had to be somebody who was like pounding the table for Sebastian Valdez. I got to know who that was because that guy can play, and I'm really eager to see him. Jordan Watkins. Jordan Watkins looks terrific. And every practice that goes by, he looks even better. Wide receiver at Ole Miss. He's a gem potential. Corey Kiner, running back from Cincinnati, started at LSU. I see some poor man's Emmitt Smith in Corey Kiner. I know that makes people go, Krug, you're crazy, you're high, you're this, you're that. I'm not crazy, I'm not high. Corey Kiner has contact balance, tremendous heart. He's 5'9", he's 210, he runs mid 4.5s. A lot of the same traits that Emmett had. I love me some Corey Kiner. So those are the guys that I think really have gem potential. But there are others. You know, Mac Jones has looked great so far. Mac Jones has looked really good. Carter Bradley is throwing the ball really well. We're not going to see him in this game, but Jacob Cowing, I think, is going to look good at some point in the preseason if he can get on the field. He had a great OTAs. Connor Colby, Chris Furster told me that Connor Colby's kind of like Dom Pooney in that they feel confident that he can be a pass protector right now, which tells me and tells Chris that he can play. If you can be trusted as a pass protector, you can play. So Connor Colby, I think, is going to be a guy to watch. Drew Moss, very strong interior offensive lineman. Marquise Siegel, maybe the Niners' future starter at free safety. Jacob Robinson, the corner from BYU, has had a PBU almost every day of practice that I can tell, and he's got 4.3 speed. The book on him is he was weak, and he doesn't look weak at all. Stone Blanton, Johnny Holland told me that Stone Blanton has as much tackle production as any linebacker in this camp, and he also has the fewest reps in practice of any linebacker in this camp, and they chart all that stuff. Stone Blanton is a tackle machine. Can't wait to see him. I'm not sure if he can play in the NFL, but he was a great player in college. We'll see if he can do it. Junior Bergen returning kicks. Really want to see that. Derek Canteen, the safety corner, special teamer. He's made some nice plays in practice. Tatum Bethune, who's a rookie last year, has really redone his body. He's dropped some weight. He's added some muscle. He's added some speed, some quickness. He looks phenomenal on the practice field. And then Bradley Anai, who ran 4.9 coming out of Utah, but still won the Morris Trophy in the Pac-12. I mean, this guy's a big-time talent. He had 30 career sacks at Utah. He went to Dallas, got drafted by Dallas. They traded him to the Jets. The Jets thought he was good enough to make a really talented D-line. And Robert Saleh, and let's see if we can play that cut, actually. I think I have that cut. Robert Saleh was like, man, we thought this guy could play. And then he tore his ACL. And they obviously couldn't use him at that point. And then he worked his way back. He had this amazing year in the UFL. Here's Saleh. Listen to this. This is pretty amazing, actually. Here we go. A little Robert Saleh, Niners defense coordinator, on Bradley Anai. And I'm really sky high on this kid. He doesn't have great speed, which usually you need in an edge rusher, but he gets it done with these crazy good hands. Listen to Saleh here. Robert, what do you like about Bradley Anai? He was really good at Utah, and he really killed it in the, I guess, the UFL. I know you had him at the Jets.
Yeah. Bradley, he came to us at the Jets from Dallas as a practice squad guy, gave us an op to work with him. We were all really excited to work with him. We thought that he had a legit chance to make a really good roster on D-line in New York, and he tore his ACL during OTAs, and which set him back. Proud of him. He found his way, had a really successful season. So he's here. He's a good player. I'm not going to say who I compare him to, but he's a very smart, effective player. He's got great versatility. So it's a great opportunity for him. Hope he takes advantage.
Robert, what do you like about Bradley Anai? So it's funny. I won't tell you who I compare him to. Why won't he tell us that? Because he just doesn't want to put pressure on Bradley Anai. He really doesn't. Because whoever he's going to compare him to is damn good. And he doesn't want to set that kid up for that. But I like how he says with conviction, he's a good player. He's a good player. All right, let's do this. Chase Sr. covers the Niners for Chat Sports. Caught up with him a few minutes ago. Let's bring him into the mix right here on Niners Nightly. We'll come back. We'll read some of these chats. We got more to go, but here's a little dialogue right here. Chase Sr. from Chat Sports caught up with him just about a little bit ago.
Obviously, the legendary radio talk show host and play-by-play guy for the San Francisco 49ers.
All right, joining us on Niners Nightly is Chase Sr. from Chat Sports. If you haven't checked out Chat Sports, man, you absolutely should. Chat Sports does an amazing job covering the Niners. Chase is their guy covering the Niners, and he's with us on the UMA guest line on the Sports Leader to chop it up and talk some Niners. Hey, Chase, how are you, man?
Doing great. Anytime I can hop on KNBR on a football Friday to talk Niners with you, it's always a great time. And I do want to begin with saying I'm thinking about Greg Papa right now, obviously the legendary radio talk show host and play-by-play guy for the San Francisco 49ers. I actually grew up in the Philadelphia area, and his brother, Gary Papa, was a legendary sports anchor. And so when I started covering the Niners a few years ago, I put it together that Gary and Greg were brothers. And Greg's San Francisco chant has resonated with so many people, including myself. And so dealing with that issue right now with his health, and cancer is something that has hit my family very hard. So I'm thinking about him, sending him well wishes, strength, prayers, good vibes, and we hope to see him back in the booth soon.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. Greg and I mean, he's like family. He's like a brother. I've known him for a long time. I probably think about what year did I meet Greg? It was probably the mid 90s. I've probably known him for over 30 years. I could say a bunch of things about him. We've laughed together, we've cried together, we've, been celebrated things together, partied on Bourbon Street together, done all kinds of things together. And I'm a big fan of Greg as a pro. Of course, he's one of the best, right? He's a great talk show host. He's one of the greatest play-by-play guys in the history of the San Francisco Bay Area market. There's just no question about that. But dude, at his core, he's a dude. He's a dude. The same way that I consider you a dude, I consider him a dude. It's he's a cool dude. He's a guy that you can have a beer with and chop it up, and he's just a very cool guy. And I love Greg. And Greg, if you're out there, if you're watching this somehow, we're with you. You're not fighting this fight alone. And we all admire you. We have great respect for you. We wish you a healthy return. I know you'll beat cancer, and fuck cancer. I hate cancer. I hate what all the people that it takes from us. But thank you, Greg, for all the kindness and all the great years of entertainment you've given me, and all the friendship and all the times we've partied together, tilted a few back, or who knows, a few other things along the way. We've really had some good times. But I just wanted to say, Greg, we're thinking of you, brother. And we on the KMBR side, and I don't know if Chase knows this, but on the KMBR side, we have dedicated this season to you, Greg Papa. And we are going to do everything in our power. We talked about it at our dinner the other night with the 49ers. We're all going to have to dig a little deep and become 10% better, 20% better. It's no different than a football team losing an Ayuk. The Niners are going to have to kind of circle the wagons, and everybody's going to have to step up and do a little bit more. And I told the guys, I said, I looked around that room and I said, hey, man, we got a lot of young guys in this room. I go, I'm the old head in this room, but I just want to let you guys know, you guys all have the talent to do it. You all have the ability to do it. We're going to have a great year. We're going to cover Niner football better than we ever have before, even without Greg as our lead man. Greg, you just worry about getting better and taking care of yourself and your family. We got you on this front, and we can't wait to the day that we're reunited and we're doing this together. So thank you, my friend. And on that note, let's talk.
Beautifully said, man. Beautifully
let's
said.
talk a little football.
Yeah.
Greg would not want us to belabor this any further, and he would want us to talk ball, and we will. What do you think? Niners coming off of the joint practice. They've got the Broncos at Levi's tomorrow night. One more sleep before we get football to return, which I know we're all fired up about. What's your takeaway from the joint practices? I know you weren't there on the sidelines, but you saw a lot of the footage. You've read a lot of the reports. What's your takeaway from the little get-together down in Santa Clara yesterday?
Of course, yeah. Wish I was there along that sideline, but look, this allows me to have a different perspective and pinpoint storylines that I think are very important for this football team. And so when the Niners have an opportunity to go up against one of the top defenses in the National Football League, statistically, analytically, that is a great litmus test for a team at this juncture of training camp, heading into the preseason, to see where you are at as a football club with a little less than a month to go until the start of the regular season. And for the Niners to start a little bit slow against Denver, not really much of a surprise there. You're without Trent Williams, you're without Brandon Ayuk, you're without Jawan Jennings. Ricky Pearsall's the number one wide receiver. A rookie, Jordan Watkins, is getting a lot of time at one of the other receiver spots. You have Ben Barch, who is a newish starter at left guard. There are a lot of moving parts. There are a lot of new players trying to step up. This collection of talent for San Francisco hasn't played a lot together in a setting that's live like this, which is as real as it gets compared to an actual game. And so this was a great practice for San Francisco. And Brock Purdy started a little bit rocky, threw a couple of interceptions, but what's really important for this football team as well, Christian McCaffrey looking good, explosive, healthy, check. Jordan Watkins developing as a rookie, 4.3 speed, ball tracking ability. You saw it on display at Ole Miss. He was one of the most explosive wide receivers in college football. On Thursday, one-on-ones, he's able to dust a corner and win with hand fighting, get a little bit physical to separate at the end of that route. You're looking for Ricky Pearsall, former first-round pick, to, without Jawan Jennings and Brandon Ayuk, be that number one wide receiver. You were a first-round pick. Ladd McConkey was drafted after you. There were some great players still on the board. Offensively, defensively, player like Cooper DeJean, the Niners took you. And when you have been on the field and healthy, and obviously he had to handle a lot of adversity last year, and God bless him, I'm so glad that he's okay. But the Niners need him to step up. And so far in training camp, he's having a 2022-2023 Brandon Ayuk-like training camp with his ability to be one of the best players on the field. And that is huge for his development. It's huge for this offense. It's huge for Brock Purdy to develop that rapport with a guy like Ricky Pearsall. And if he can stay healthy, I think that he can be a legitimate player in this league. Defensively, Upton Stout. He looks like a stud. He's making plays every single day at training camp. He plays with physicality, swagger, tenaciousness, plays so much bigger than his size. Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh love him. Fred Warner said he's it. And look at this clip right here. This is physical with the wide receiver at the top of the route, and that is sticky coverage with that 4.4 speed, and then he's able to step in front of the passing lane, pick that pass off, and that's a hell of a catch right there, given all of the mechanics that you saw prior to that, as he was sticking with that wide receiver in that route to make that play. And so the Niners used the third-round pick on him. You know, Alfred Collins in one-on-ones. There was a play where he was very physical that the Niners tweeted out, where he was able to really bully an interior offensive lineman. He struggled to start training camp, but at 6'5", 330 with that wingspan, that's what you want to see. And so these are the types of things that I get pumped up about and that make me excited about this Niners team going into 2025. John Lynch said it. There could be some bumps in the road. There could be some rough patches, but you see that the potential is there. And even though this Niners offense, going back to that, did start slow in the move the ball period, to see them move the rock, score some touchdowns against the number one red zone defense in the NFL, a top 5 overall defense in the NFL last year, that's what this team is capable of doing here in 2025.
No question. And, you know, it's funny. John Lynch was asked on the KNBR morning show on Friday how he would rank the rookies. Matt Barrows from The Athletic had written an article ranking the rookies. And he was asked, how would you rank them? And I thought maybe he would beg off and be like, you know, they're all my guys and this and that. But he actually shouted out Mikael Williams and Upton Stout as the two guys that he thought were the best rookies. I personally, for me, I would say the two best rookies. I mean, Stout is amazing. There's no question, even though he's a little guy. But I would say the two best rookies to me are C.J. West and Nick Martin. I know Nick Martin hasn't played a game, and I really think that Nick Martin and Corey Kiner have been revelations in the Niners camp.
Wow!
But because you don't really play with the running, it's not live. So it's like they're not tackling. They're not bringing guys to the ground. So it's like, I don't think you can judge running backs until the pads come on, but then I don't think you can judge linebackers until it's live, till the hitting's live. Because like, I didn't think much of Nick Martin as far as his production one day. And I'm like, I don't know if I see him, but I hadn't brought my binoculars out and we were pretty far away. The next day I decided I'm going to bring my high powered binoculars. I've got, as a former scout, you can imagine I've got the most high powered binoculars. I mean, I can literally see like miles away. So I'm like standing way back and I've got these huge binoculars. I'm looking at it. And as I'm watching that practice, Nick Martin showed up constantly because he's small and you just don't see him that well, but he's showing up at the ball and they just tag off and they move on. The running backs oftentimes keep running. But when you watch it on the binoculars and you can get that close, you can see the impact of Nick Martin. And I think the impact of Nick Martin on the defensive side, the impact of Corey Kiner on the offensive side, I don't think we're going to actually feel that or really get the full, realization of what that value is until tomorrow night.
Which is why it's so impressive that Upton Stout with pads on has been even better. And Nick Martin is a player you bring up who I think is so interesting. His second to last year at Oklahoma State before he suffered that injury, he had triple-digit tackles. He had double-digit TFLs. He had a few sacks. He had some pass breakups. While he's a little bit smaller as a backer, the Niners, this current regime, has a history of turning DBs into really good linebackers and maximizing players of this type of physical build who just play with great instincts and play recognition and play speed. And when you really see that? In a joint practice. When you see that in a live game. And so as we look ahead to the Saturday preseason game against Denver, Upton Stout craves physicality. Nick Martin does as well. CJ West, violent hands, quick get off. That should translate. Alfred Collins, 6'5", 330, going up against some backups, get seasoning in there, after you didn't do anything in the spring. And so, these are storylines that I can't wait to monitor here on Saturday night. And from a player evaluation process, all of these guys have showed those glimpses. Now it's time for them to fully put it on display when the actual live tape is rolling.
You cover the Niners and you're not local, but you do an amazing job covering the Niners. And I thought that before we ever even streamed. I want to share this. This is a thing that Grant Cohn put out. This is just a graphic of the most viewed NFL team by state. This is according to Pro Football Reference. So where do you think the Niners stand in, you cover the Niners, you cover the Eagles,
Yep.
Look at this map. And what does this map say to you? Do you think that this map you've traveled the country, you live in Texas.
Oh yeah.
But you haven't lived in Texas your whole life, right? You've lived other places. You're from Pennsylvania. You're from up here, right?
I'm from I'm from the Philadelphia area. I lived in Illinois. I lived in Los Angeles, and now I live in Texas. So I've been
all over the map.
Yeah.
What do you think of this? What do you think of this graphic? It basically, for people who aren't watching this, if you're catching this off of a podcast, we're looking at a map that shows by state what are the most viewed teams by state as far as television ratings. And the Niners are the number one team in California, Oregon, Nevada, whatever state this is up here. I don't know what that is. Is that Idaho, maybe?
Idaho.
What state's right to the left?
That's Colorado.
Colorado. Above Colorado is...
Wait, is that Colorado?
That might be Colorado.
Yeah.
Right? What's beneath Colorado?
We talk sports, not geography.
I know, seriously.
This is bad.
This is bad. I used to, in the fourth grade, I knew this stuff. But anyway, I thought Dallas would be bigger.
Me too.
It's just Texas and Arkansas, right? Isn't that Arkansas right there?
Oklahoma.
Yeah. Kansas City. Now, I don't know if it's just because of the Super Bowl, but I mean, look at all the Kansas City. Then there's Minnesota. I didn't realize the Vikings. I would have thought Green Bay would have been bigger. Where the Bears are only in Illinois. I mean, there's no.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think of this map when you look at it, though? I mean, I'll say this: is all those years of the Patriots' dominance sure hasn't made any impact. Huh? They're up here in New England, and that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, you would think all Tom Brady and Belichick that they would, they've won all these fans. Why is it that the Niners are so? What do you think of the map? I'll just throw it to you.
So, Larry, our state recognition might be bad, but in looking at this, to just like describe it to people, about a quarter of the country, as far as the overall United States from a mass standpoint, roots on the Niners, and there's a bulk of states most viewed NFL team by state. And so what this tells me is that the Cowboys are no longer America's team. America's team is split between San Francisco and Kansas City. Now, this is interesting because
a lot of Denver right there too, huh?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the Niners are more viewed in Colorado than the Denver Broncos.
How about Pittsburgh with that state right next to?
Mexico?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
what's up with
what are
that?
Pittsburgh people doing in New Mexico? That's not a steel city by any means, generationally speaking.
How about along the eastern seaboard? There's a is that South Carolina that likes the Detroit
the
Lions?
Detroit Lions? Yes.
What?
Virginia likes the Detroit Lions. And
That's
of course,
crazy.
Michigan. Yeah. So what this tells me is that the Niners are one of the most popular teams in the NFL. And when you look at some of the most watched television events, the top 100, I think 70 to 80 of them are NFL games. I mean, you want to talk about the NFL just dominating pop culture, sports, and our country's viewing habits. It's football. It's the NFL. And so it is in demand. Business is absolutely booming. And the Niners are one of the most notable, iconic, popular, most watched, most followed brands in all of sports. But when you look at that top 100 list of television ratings, oftentimes there are a handful of 49ers games in there. Now, that has to do with their popularity right now. But my take on this, and I've been saying this for a while, when you think about the overall history of the NFL, right? The first Super Bowl was only when Joe Namath won it over the Colts. In the grand scheme of American history, that wasn't that long ago, right? But when the NFL started to become popular and when fans started to gravitate toward it, and it started to have a stranglehold on America, when was this? The NFL started to really pick up momentum in the 80s and the 90s. The 49ers dynasty went through the 80s and the 90s. And so they became such a popular organization, brand, and team during that era when the NFL really started to gain popularity, and that has now lasted generations. I see it with my show. I might not be local in San Francisco, but I talk about the Niners. And if you look analytically at my YouTube numbers, we literally have people watching from every pocket of America and worldwide. There are Niner fans everywhere. And the reason for that, I think, is because of what I mentioned. Their dynasty happened when NFL really started to gain popularity, and that has led to generational fandom that we see all across the country and frankly all around the world, and they become one of the most iconic brands.
It's amazing. It really is. Warren Sharp had a interesting stat the other day about the Niners and their health. Here it is.
Oh,
I want to show you this one. This really
top 10 every year under Kyle Shanahan except for 2023. Literally.
Yeah. I mean, this is the Niners' health situation. We show it to you. Warren Sharp, 49ers health by season. 2024, they were the most injured team in football. 2023, they were 29th in the most injuries, and they went 12-5, and they went to the Super Bowl. 2022, they were the 9th most injured team. They went 13-4, and they lost the NFC Championship game. 2021, they were the 3rd most injured team. 2020, they were the most injured team. 2019, they were the 6th most injured team and then went 13-3 and went to the Super Bowl. In 2018, they were the 4th most injured team. What does this tell you about the 49ers? It kind of says that as long as they can avoid mass injuries, they're going to be pretty damn good, but they also have a hard time avoiding mass injuries.
Yep. And they've still made it to an NFC championship game or a Super Bowl in 2019, in 2021, 2022, and 2023. That is basically half of Kyle Shanahan's tenure. And so even when they have been hurt, the Niners has still been a top 4, top 5 team in football, making it to the Final Four on a consistent basis in the NFL playoffs. And so this is something that I've discussed on my show where it's like, okay, Kyle Shanahan's an old school football guy for being a younger guy to coaching standards. He came up under Mike Shanahan. Mike Shanahan's teams were very physical. They were very violent. They played tough, rugged football. And the organizational culture for Denver was, we want football guys who live and breathe the game. Well, Kyle Shanahan's teams have been the exact same. And their practices are hard and difficult. Javon Hargrave, when he signed with San Francisco, said those Eagles practices, it was more like the Golden State Warriors. These Niner practices, much more physical than that. And so that was pretty telling to me at the time, just the difference in practice habits from a player who was with one organization to another. And Kyle Shanahan's scheme is a downhill physical type of attack. The running game, the outside zone, the pull blocks, the crackback blocks, the way that the Niners play, which is trying to wear you down, take your will, and be physical. That is a Kyle Shanahan identity team. Remember that stat from 2023, Larry, where the teams who played the Niners the following week were like 0-12 that year? Part of that is because the Niners will kick your ass and beat you up. That also leads to a lot of injuries. I also think there's something to be said. Like yesterday at the practice, I think it was John Chapman who tweeted out, the Broncos were stretching before practice. The 49ers were not. From a health science standpoint, why does that make any sense? The Niners do this like active stretching, whereas the Broncos are like on the ground stretching. I mean, that's been proven for decades and decades throughout generations and generations to work and help avoid injury. Like, why aren't the Niners doing that? You would think they'd change their philosophy on that, but they have their own philosophy, which is kind of weird. So when something like this is so glaring and it's hurt them and cost them so much, you know, my thinking goes to, let's get to the root cause of the issue. Let's not be like modern medicine in America and just like mask the problems. Let's try to solve the actual problems here.
You know, I mean, I got to think, though, that the Niners don't run out on the field and just start practicing, right? They have to do some stretching, individually stretching in the locker room. I mean, they're not stretching on the field, but I have a hard time believing they're starting an NFL practice without
they're doing
up.
Something, obviously, but like, are they going to the fullest depths to figure out why this keeps happening? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, it's a great question.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things to do is talk to the players about other players, because game recognizes game.
Yeah.
And it really, I asked Dom Pooney about Sebastian Valdez, who's really been one of my favorite guys to watch this summer. And I'm going to share the screen. Here's what Big Dom had to say about Valdez, who I asked him, have you knocked heads with this guy? Here's what he said. Tom, you mentioned some of the undrafted guys. What's it like banging heads with Valdez, the undrafted rookie?
I actually haven't gone against him yet, but from what I see, we call him the Hulk. He looks crazy. He's really built. He's fast. He's twitchy. He's good off the ball. He gives us trouble in one-on-one pass situations because he's really twitchy and he's got good hands. But once he gets going, he's going to be a problem. I think they got to go with him.
Yeah, and I did an interview with Dom later in the week, one-on-one, and he's like, man, whoever was responsible for bringing that guy in should get a raise, because, I mean, 300-pound interior rushers who have great strength and good hands and quick feet, I mean, those guys get paid a lot of money in free agency, and a lot of people missed on this kid. So I don't know who, I'll have to ask Lynch next time I see him, who was responsible for banging the table after the draft saying we need to sign Sebastian Valdez, because that guy probably deserves an extra parking spot at the facility.
I would love to find out. And you and I on your show, the Krueger Show, legendary YouTube program, we've been talking about Sebastian Valdez for a really long time. And
yeah,
in this wide nine, it can be really difficult to find defensive tackles who are a scheme fit. He seems to be a really quality scheme fit for San Francisco. This is a player who transferred to Washington and he played really well, and he has some really intriguing attributes. And you think about this Niners team right now, like, they badly need defensive tackle depth. And so if they can hit on a UDFA who's going to be a cost-controlled guy moving forward for the next few years in Sebastian Valdez, huge for this football team. If CJ West, who has stolen the show at moments throughout training camp with the violent hands, the physical play, and the fast get off with the good technique, he's a shorter guy who gets good leverage. And if he turns out to be a good player, he can be an impact guy right away. A guy like Alfred Collins, he missed all of the spring. Robert Saleh even said he's had some down moments, but he's getting better every day. He's 6'5", 330 with what? An 80-plus inch wingspan. He played in 64 of 65 games while at Texas. He was a big body mover and a double team absorber. You take him in the second round, he hits for you. It helps to transform this defense. And Larry, I dropped you the one-on-one Alfred Collins video in the private chat here on StreamYard if you want to play that like you just did with that clip right there for Pooney. But that's the display and that's the example of power that Alfred Collins can bring to the table. And what the Niners have done, coming off that 2023 Super Bowl, they were the oldest team in football, and they had a lot of financial capital tied up to a lot of players. This offseason, they've reset, they've gotten younger, and they've tried to build through the draft and with youth. And that's why this draft class has become so important. Here's that Collins video. Like, this is bullying and throwing aside an interior offensive lineman like a ragdoll. Woo, look at that.
Well, first of all, I mean, look, the guard that he's going against is probably about 315 pounds.
He pushed him
back.
Look
at him go back. He pushed him back almost 5 yards.
And then he couldn't maintain his footing.
You know, it's funny too. Alfred Collins, just watching Chris Krueger coach the D linemen in a lot of the one-on-ones, especially early in camp, he would just be screaming at the top of his lungs, keep going, keep going. Because what would happen is Collins would have this rep, except he wouldn't do the last part, that part. Wouldn't do that part. He would just get wired to the blocker and just stay there neutralized, and it's a stalemate. So then he's watching CJ West and he's watching Valdez. He's watching some of the other guys, and he's starting to throw guys away and use his strength, and he's starting to get it. And every day that goes on, you know, it's unbelievable. You would think Denver, with their really good offensive line, that this would have been a rough day at the office for Collins. He had his best day yesterday in these practices against the Broncos. And and there was another rep that we don't have here, but he basically did the same kind of thing, except the guy kind of set to the inside shoulder. Collins felt him kind of shading there, and he spun into the quarterback the way the CJ West often spins. So I'll say this. I mean, you know, Alfred, you can tell, wants to get better. And Chris is going to coach him up hard. He's got other guys there that he can hang with, but he's going to get better. He's going to get better. He's just a force, man. He's a real, because what he has, Chase, you cannot teach.
No,
you can't teach 6'5",
330.
Yeah, you can't teach that. So like what he's got is truly amazing.
Yeah. And luckily, you know, Kosarek's one of the best defensive line coaches in the NFL. Like, he has developed a lot of players throughout his tenure with the Niners. There's a reason why Kyle Shanahan, when there have been changes at defensive coordinator, has said, hey, you're going to come in here as a new DC. Chris Kosarek will be the defensive line coach. And that play with Collins, you know, kind of got me thinking, right? His rookie year, statistically, he might not have gaudy sack or TFL numbers, but that mere presence to blow up a play like that, to lead the quarterback or the ball carrier to a different spot into the awaiting arms of another defender, that's having a huge impact without it reflecting on the stat sheet. And if he can move bodies, absorb double teams, force a quarterback off his spot for an errant throw or a check down, like, those are highly impactful plays that go beyond just the numbers that Alfred Collins is capable of as a rookie. And then, of course, you build upon that from there.
One sleeper we haven't discussed, you and I, but I really like this kid quite a bit. The Niners added a guy named Bradley Anai, who was with Dallas. I want to share the screen because somebody put this out on X.
One of the best pass rushers in the UFL.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention. Bradley Anai's UFL stats. He led the UFL with a 23.2% pass rush win rate. He led with a 91.7 pass rush grade in true pass sets. He was top 5 in pressures, top 5 in hurries, 17 tackles, 6 TFLs, 5 sacks. This guy had 30 sacks at Utah. 30 career sacks. This guy was a really good player. He won the Morris Trophy in the Pac-12, which goes to the best lineman in the conference. So I asked Robert Saleh the other day about him, and I'll share the screen. Listen to what Saleh says about him. He had him with the Jets and then was like, oh, you know what? I like this kid. And I asked him about him, and this is what Robert had to say about Bradley Anai, the former Utah Ute. The guy ran in the 4.9s, so that's too slow, but his hand usage is awesome. Here's Saleh.
Robert, what do you like about Bradley Anai? He was really good at Utah, and he really killed it in the, I guess, the UFL. I know you had him with the Jets.
Yeah.
What do you think of Anai?
You know, Bradley, he came to us at the Jets from Dallas as a practice squad guy, gave us an op to work with him. We were all really excited to work with him. We thought that he had a legit chance to make a really good roster on D-line in New York, and he tore his ACL during OTAs, and which set him back. Proud of him. He found his way. He had a really successful season. So he's here. He's a good player. I'm not going to say who I compare him to, but he's a very smart, effective player. He's got great versatility. So it's a great opportunity for him. Hope he takes advantage.
I really want to know who he'd compare him to.
I know, I did too. That was my question.
Yeah.
Who do you think? So he's probably got to compare him to some try-hard D-end who doesn't have great physical skills but has great production. And I'd love to know who it was. Is it anybody that, it can't be like a D Ford or somebody like that who has the awesome get off. It has
Justin
to be
Smith.
It has to be somebody who's like rugged.
Justin Smith and like Trent Cole. They weren't like twitched up edge rushers. They just kind of won with like relentlessness. Jared Allen, who just got inducted to the Hall of Fame, he wasn't really like an insane athlete, but man, he was just a menace out there with his hustle ability, the technique, the ability to win. I wish we got that answer from Salah.
I know, and I'm gonna get it from. So Brad Graham was watching at practice, and he tweeted out, he's like, I'm watching Bradley and and he's shown up at the quarterback on four times. This guy is not very fast. As I said, he ran in the 4.9s, but it's amazing, Chase, how much the hands matter as a pass rusher.
Yeah.
Because it's like you get a guy, and sometimes the lineman goes to, they extend the arms, right? They extend the arms. They're trying to get there. And then the best guys kind of slap that away and get to the next thing. And Anai has done that. It's like in one motion, he will slap away the offensive tackle's arms and then get to the outside shoulder in like a jump, all in like one move. He's like, this arm goes this way, the body jumps that way, and he gets around the edge. I'm really eager to see what Anai can do because he's pass rushing in practice, and he didn't get any faster. He just has great technique. And you could see Salah liked him, and he said, hey, he was going to make a really good Jets team, and then he tore the ACL. Last one, Juwan Jennings. Give me your quick thought on Juwan Jennings. Lynch says there's no timetable for his return. Shanahan said that the MRI, the calf injury is showing up on the MRI. I'm very skeptical. I think ultimately we're going to find out how this, is it the ankle or is it the calf or not, or is it the contract? Because if he doesn't get an extension and he comes back, then maybe they're right. It's just the calf. But if he gets an extension and comes back, then I'm right. It's not the calf. It's the cash. I don't, I'm not trying to make this like some salacious, sexy topic. I'm just trying to get to the truth of the matter. What do you think's going on with Jennings and the Niners, and how do you think this winds up?
Well, when players are looking for new deals, they're either a full holdout or a full hold in. Juwan Jennings was like half in, half out, if this is his strategy. I mean, he reported the training camp on time. He was in really good shape. He practiced for a few practice sessions, made plays, caught a few balls from Brock Purdy, looked good in the process, and then what? He's just going to say, all right, I'm out. I'm not going to practice any longer. I'm just going to hold in now. Like, no player has really ever done that, because the whole thought of a hold in, hold out is to avoid injury. And then Juwan Jennings practiced, and what? If he doesn't have an injury, like, he's just holding in now? That doesn't make sense to me. But you're right. Like, if the Niners give him that contract and then he's back at practice the next day, yeah, looked as though it was a hold-in. But I think what really is happening is that Juwan Jennings legitimately re-injured a calf that he hurt in the spring. And we know that calves can lead to Achilles issues. And for a player who has no financial security beyond this year, too much to risk being out there if it is indeed that calf injury. And, if he is legitimately hurt, how big of a concern does that become for San Francisco? Because they already have a lot of question marks at wide receiver. Ayuk out. Can Ricky Pearsall be that guy? He's had a great camp, but can he stay healthy? Is Demarcus Robinson going to get a suspension levied upon by the NFL? Like, we're not sure about that. Jacob Cowing is still hurt. Jordan Watkins is a rookie. Russell Gage was out of the league for a couple of years. Great training camp. Looks to be in a spot where he can make this roster, but the point here being a lot of question marks at that wideout spot.
You're the man. Tell the KNBR audience one more time about Chat Sports. Give a plug for the channel and tell people where they can find you, man.
Of course, 49ers Report by Chat Sports on YouTube. Over 162,000 subscribers, reaching millions and millions of people worldwide every single month, talking Niners every day. I hop on with Krueger on the Krueger Show every single Friday and covering this team. Absolute blast, because it wouldn't be possible without all the people who watch and absorb all of the content. That includes everybody here on KNBR as well.
Hey, man, you're the best, man. Always great. Check out Chase on Chat Sports. He does great work. That's actually, we're going to take a quick time out. We'll come back with a few more thoughts. It's Niners Nightly on a Friday on these Sports Leaders. All right, there you go. A little bit of Chase Senior. Always enjoyed Chase Senior, chopping it up with Chase Senior. There we go. 49er Red Zone. Chase Senior, 100. Hope you guys enjoyed that conversation. By the way, I got to show you guys. I got to show you. I want to play a couple cuts here before we get out of here. We played the Dom Pooney one before, but I mentioned Stone Blanton as a guy that I'm going to watch for, and I want to share the screen on Johnny Holland. I caught up with Johnny Holland the other day, and I asked him about Stone Blanton. Listen to this. Listen to Johnny talk about Stone Blanton. I love Johnny. Great guy, great linebacker coach. Here he is.
How about young Stone Blanton? What do you think of him?
Stone Blanton is showing up. You know,
is,
and
isn't he?
Stone, he doesn't get many reps at practice, but every rep he gets, he make the most out of them. And Stone, he showed it in college. He had a lot of ball production, punch out. He reminded me of a young Fred Warner, but he's a very smart player. And you can tell him one time he can get it, but he's going to be a player that, you know, he's going to have a chance.
He seemed like in the team periods of some of these practice sessions, very talkative.
Yeah.
And that, to me, that's a good sign for a young linebacker, right? And he's vocal.
For a rookie to come in here and play Mike linebacker with all the checks, the calls, and setting up the defensive front, that we ask him a lot. Stone doesn't blink, man. He does a great job with it. And so, you know, and he's in a room that, you know, we have some good linebackers as examples, and if you tell him one time, he can do it. Very excited about it. He's a physical player.
He's a very productive player at Mississippi State. He had 18 tackles in a game last year.
Yeah, and he had a lot of ball production.
Yeah.
At Mississippi State, and he does have ball production in training camp, and he probably is a linebacker that has least amount of reps in training camp, and he has just as much ball production as everybody else.
How about you?
There you go. A little bit of Johnny Holland right there on young Stone Blanton. Will be a guy that I will keep my eyes on for sure tomorrow night. I also want to show you this cool shirt that I got sent the other day. Pretty cool one. I'll show this. I put this out on Twitter today. Somebody sent me, or Chubbies, I should say, sent me this. This is kind of cool. Here we go. Let's share the screen, and you guys can see this cool Niners shirt. And I don't wear a lot. Could you imagine if I wore this into like the press box or something? I can't do that. But there you go. Look at that. Look at that. Niners shirt. Thank you, Chubbies. Just got that. Very sharp. I'm enjoying that. Thanks for thanks for sending that my way. It's actually kind of a cool looking Niners shirt. Thank you to Chubbies for sending me the Niners shirt. Good stuff there. But anyway, hey, that's going to do it for us. Alex said, that's awesome. That's awesome. Good stuff. Definitely good stuff. That's going to do it for us. Our hour goes by very quickly on this Friday night. Thanks to KNBR for giving me a shot to do Niners Nightly on a regular basis. Tomorrow, I'm back with you, 9 a.m. on the Krueger Show on YouTube, bright and early. Then I'll be on the pregame show around 3:30. We have pregame on KNBR, and it's not going to be on KNBR. It's going to be on 8:10 a.m. and it's going to be on 107.7 FM because the Giants are still going. So check out pregame tomorrow with Adam Copeland and Tracy Sandler and Todd Husak at 2:30. I think they get rolling. I will join the festivities at 3:30 for a segment. Then we'll be back for postgame, and we'll do postgame as well on the Krug Show as well. So join me tomorrow on the radio and on the Krug Show on YouTube for a lot of Niner discussion. Should be a lot of fun. Thanks to everybody. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow on the Sports Leader.